So what we have here is a Google Sheet that I've created, and I'm going to explain to you how it works. And it basically lays out the recipe for all of the different effects that I'm going to be showing you. I've created, let's see, 17 different effects for you, and I left you some room here if you want to add some of your own, and if you want to keep extending this and building out more of them that you want to share with others. But the way it works is here you have a number, so you can refer to the particular effect using a number, or you can use its name. I gave them all some descriptive names. So like the first one's called roundabout, and then it explains here how to use all the different pieces. This row here is all the different motions that are available in Create Studio. This column here, column C, is the number of groups that you're going to need to create the effect. Column D is the order. So it's basically what you're going to see when you create a group. The first group you see is group number 3. The second group that you see is group number 2. That's the middle group. And the last group you're going to see is going to be group number 1. That's the innermost group. That's why they're this way here, because you see 3 first, 2 second, 1 last. Then across here you have all of your positions with your in and your out. Okay, and then here you have what the actual motion is and what we're doing. So for instance, in this roundabout one, under position, it's going to the right. Under scale, it's scaling up. And under fade, it's fading in. And then the out action is the position is still going to the right, so it's coming in from the right. It's coming in from the left to the right. And then when it's all done, it's going to go from the center to the right. Then you have scale, so it's scaling down. And you have the fade, which is fading out. So if you wanted to build this, this is the recipe here on how to build this one here called roundabout, or number 1. Same thing here. Number 2, it's called over the hump. And it takes 3 groups to do it. You have the innermost group is here, the middle group, and the one that you see first. So the one that you see first, it uses the fade, fading in. The second group that you see is rotation, so it uses the rotate motion. And the last one you're going to see, which is the innermost one, is the position, and it's to the right again. And the out for that would be the same thing. It would be the outermost position, the one that you'd put with this one here, would be fade out. It would be, second one is rotation. And the third one is position to the right. So it does the same thing as the one up here. It comes in from the left to the center, going in the right direction, and then from the center to the right for the out position. You'll also notice if you scroll down that some of them only have 2 groups. So I made some simpler ones. Like this one here, I call it ta-da. And basically, it's only made up of 2 groups. That's why you have this gray section here. So the first one that you're going to see, the innermost one, is going to be the fade in. And then the one that's on the outside, that when you click into the groups, you're going to see first is going to be the backup under scale. So these 2 here give you a certain motion. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you some of these. And I've put together a video that's going to accompany this video that's going to show you all these different ones. So you'll be able to see the difference from one to the other. This is a quick shot of my Google Drive, where I am hosting all the stuff that I give away to you guys, as well as the new nested groups effect guide that I have just finished creating. And if we click on it, this is what you're going to see. So I want to mention one last thing before we actually get to see some of these effects. And that's the fact that even though you have the recipe here, you're still able to make adjustments to them. Like for instance, the positions, you're able to decide where they start and where they end. The scale ups, scale downs, you can also decide how quickly those happen. Same thing with the fade in, fade out, or any of these here. You can make adjustments to continue to change the effects, how quickly they happen, how slowly they happen, how much something happens. So even though you have the recipe here, these are all of the, let's say, when you double click on a motion, like for instance, right, this is what it gives you, the default amount that it gives you. So if the default amount happens to be half a second, that's what I've set it to. But like I said, if you want to change how fast or how slow a motion happens, you're free to play with those and create new and different effects. So effects have slightly different looks one from the other. So before I start showing you the effects, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what my workflow is like when I do stuff like this. I think that the easiest thing to do when you're trying to create something, effects like these, or you're going to be using them as, for instance, a carousel, or you're going to repeat the same ones over and over again, is you have to build out the first one, the blank one. So what I've done here is I've built the nested groups. I've started off by putting an image. Once I had the image, I then put it inside of a group, which I called group 1. After that, I created my next group, which I called group 2. Don't worry about this here. This is what's inside the group. So inside group 3 is group 2. And then inside of group 2, I put group 3. Now this name here, that's just for your benefit, because every one of the effects I'm going to show you has a name above it, so you can match it up with the Google sheet that I have. So that's the only reason why that's there. I could have put it on the very innermost group and it would have just moved along with the image, but I wanted to keep it easy for you to read, so I put it on the outermost one. And then I grouped all of that inside of one called blank NGE for nested group effects. So once you do that, it's then easy to replicate. So for instance, if I was to come in here and add an effect to group 1, let's say I wanted to add the motions to it. I would come in here and I would add my 2 motions, whatever they happen to be. Then I would come here to the next one up, group 2. I would add my motions to this. Then I would come up here to group 3. I would add my motions to this. And then what happens is you can take this. I happen to put it inside of one other group just so I could name it blank NGE. You don't have to. I like to do it this way. But then once I have that set up, then it's easy to just take this and replicate it as many times as you need it. And like I showed you in the last video, then all you have to do is come up here and just hit replace, and you can pick another image to put in here. You know, if I took this one, that would work, because these two are both squares and the same size, so it works well. I talked to you about the clipping a little bit the last time. If you do have the problem of clipping, you have to just go into the innermost group and change your image there and adjust it as needed. But if the images are the same size, like let's say, I don't know, you wanted to show family photos, they were all taken the same size, horizontally, they were all the same pixel ratios. You could do it this way. It'd be very easy to go in and change images to the next one. I'm going to put my buddy back here. I'm going to click out, and I'm going to say replace and put him back. I like to use him as an example. So that's the way I do my workflow. I build out my first one, and then once I have that, then it's just easy to say, to right click and say duplicate, or in this case here, it's just clicking on it and saying duplicate, and just put it here, and you got your next one ready. So it would just go from one to the other. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one by one what the different effects do. And I won't talk about it during while it's going on. I'm just going to let you watch. So I'm going to show you how to save these to your scenes. Let's say you have one or two or three that you really like and you know you're going to use them often. You can prepare them ahead of time and save them to your scenes. And then that way, all you have to do is just replace the image that's inside. So for instance, let's say we wanted to use we knew we were going to use the roundabout often. So the way it's going to work is we need to set it up with the three groups and the position right, which is the innermost one. That's why you have a number 1 here, the up, and then the in for the fade. So it's position, scale, and fade that we're going to be using. So I'm going to shrink this down, and we're going to go in and build it. So position, scale, and fade. So I have my groups here. I'm going to go to the innermost one. And this is from a previous one, so I'm just going to change this to position, right? Okay, now we're going to go to the next group up. Next one was scale, so it's position, scale, and fade. So scale, we're going to scale up, and then for out, we're going to scale down. Now we're going to go to the last group. And this one here is the fade. So click on it, go to motion, going to go to fade, we're going to fade in, and then out, fade, fade out. So technically now we've built all of them. Roundabout. And I'm going to test it before I save it. And you can see there that that was actually the roundabout. It actually worked the way it was supposed to. So we know that the recipe works. So next thing you do is you right click and you say save to my scenes. Now you can see that it put it here. Now if I want, I can delete this. Because now that it's saved in my scenes, I don't need it anymore. The next time I want to use it, let's say I'm in the middle of a project and I decide I want that effect. That's really easy to do. You come up here to your scenes, which is this little icon here. You take this, you drag it onto your timeline, and there you have it. So let's say now that you have that picture, but you don't want to use that. You want to use something else. Let's say you want to use this picture here. No problem. So now, there you go. It's as easy as that. So you can keep your scenes, and what you can do up here as well is if you want, you can create a folder to put your scenes in. If you want, you can come in here. I've created some folders already for some other things I've worked on. But if I wanted to, I could create a new folder, and I could call it, nested group effects. And I could take this and I could move it to nested group effects. There you go. So the next time I come in here, I can have all the nested group effects that I think I'm going to be using in the future, or any that you create yourself, and they'll be right there waiting for you to be used. Okay, so in this video, I've explained to you how the nested group effects work again. I explained how the Google Sheet with the recipes works. I showed you my workflow on how I go about creating and saving these. I've showed you how to save the nested group effects to your own scenes folders so you can reference them in the future and you don't have to build them from scratch every time. The only thing left is just to give you the links. So I'm going to put those in the social media posts and on the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to just click on them and go directly to the folders where I have these things stored. Have fun. Enjoy using them. If you have any of your own that you come up with, please share them. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And that's about it. Enjoy using them.